Much news is going on in Congress about the fourth stimulus payments, and here's what I want everybody to know. New state proposals for an extra round of checks have been passed. It's official. More financial assistance is finally going out to a large group of Americans, and $200 stimulus checks may be sent out very soon. The whole goal of this channel is done to provide you with the most up-to-date and reliable stimulus check news. I want to see every member of my community receive the much needed stimulus check that everyone needs. And if you guys agree, then tell me in the comments down below. Then give this video a like. If you are a resident in Illinois, then I have some good news for you. The Republicans in the House of Representatives have just announced a plan for a new round of checks that's done to all eligible Illinois residents. The proposal is an attempt to curb the rising inflation rates by helping with the cost of living. So the stimulus checks that have been proposed would be an amount lower than federal checks distributed since the crisis began. Any stimulus money would help right now. The proposed plan would send $200 checks to people making fewer than $75,000 per year, and $400 checks to joint filers making less than $150,000. Now, I do know that there is a big difference between a $200 and a $1,400 check, but this is just the beginning of the negotiations. This means the check amount could increase as discussions continue among lawmakers. The current version of the plan would cost an estimated $1.4 billion. Republican state representatives have said that they would want the state to use part of the $8 billion in crisis relief money that's done to send out state stimulus checks. Let's not forget about California. For instance, the most recent round of stimulus checks from the federal government came in early 2021, after Congress passed the American Rescue Plan in March of last year. California is one of the many states that have opted to issue their own direct payments, and that's really great. In California, the Golden State stimulus checks provided a one-off payment worth up to $1,100 for eligible residents. There were some conditions on receiving the money, but fortunately, it is not too late to claim your payment. The most recent round of Golden State stimulus checks were included in the California Comeback Plan, which was passed in July. The payments were distributed in several waves, starting from late August up to this month. And the California Franchise Tax Board have said that the paper check payments may take up to 3 weeks to arrive. So that may explain why some people may have not received their money. It is also possible that some eligible individuals have not yet had their Golden State stimulus check because they didn't file their taxes yet. So the deadline to have filed taxes was October 15th of 2021 to receive this extension for the child tax credit. So if you guys haven't done so already, be sure to contact the IRS for more information on this. If you guys have any more questions about the fourth stimulus check, tell me in the comments down below.
So the administration is closely and directly monitoring the situation. As we've said before, we've communicated with FTC, right, to crack down on illegal pricing and are engaging with countries and entities around the OPEC plus on increasing supply. We're looking at all the tools in our arsenal. We're very concerned about the impact of high energy prices on consumers, especially as we enter the colder months. And so we're continuing, like I said, to monitor the situation, and we're going to do everything that we can from here to address.
So is that something that President Biden is considering?
I don't have anything specific for you. I can just tell you what we've been doing here, which is calling on OPEC to increase their supply. We've been looking at, the monitoring the situation. I mean, one of the reasons why the president said no to paying for a bipartisan infrastructure bill with a gas tax is because of this. And so we're going to continue to just keep an eye on this. And like I said, we're going to, we have tools in our tool belts that we can potentially address this with.
The other tool that we've heard mentioned, though, from the administration is maybe tapping the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. We haven't really heard anything else specific that the president is considering. Is that because he feels that his hands are tied when it comes to what he can actually do?
So next up, we have emergency rental assistance. So earlier this month, the CDC under the Biden administration allowed the existing then eviction moratorium to expire, and Congress also did not act before breaking for August recess. They did not act on extending the eviction moratorium. This to myself and to Representative Cori Bush, as well as Representatives Ayanna Pressley, Ilhan Omar, Mondaire Jones, Jimmy Gomez, and many other representatives in the U.S. Congress, was utterly unacceptable. And so this is kind of the middle school stuff sometimes that we see in Congress. There are some people, very likely, there's probably very likely overlap with those 10 conservative Democrats that I was telling you about earlier, and the folks that did not want to extend the national eviction moratorium. But essentially what we know is that there were folks that would have rather have left town than actually cast a vote on whether we should extend the national eviction moratorium. So instead of voting to extend it, and I don't mean voting yes or no, but just voting at all, they didn't want to cast their vote. They decided to leave town. And so myself and some of the other representatives that I mentioned earlier said that is completely unacceptable, and we helped lead a protest on the steps of the Capitol. Myself and Cori Bush and many others slept on the steps of the Capitol for several days, and in order to create the political pressure necessary to prompt the Biden administration to extend the moratorium. And we were successful. And I want to thank many of our constituents, because there was actually a decent amount of constituents that hopped on buses that we provided from here in our district down to Washington, D.C. to also lend their support. And we were successful. And so what we did and what those actions resulted in was eviction protections for 11 million Americans for the month of August. Now, what happened last night was that the Supreme Court overturned the moratorium, and they ended the federal moratorium and said that it could not continue. Now, some people would say, see, there you go, we told you so. But to those folks who say that it was not worth it, I say that protecting 11 million people, even if it's for the month of August, is worth it. Now, the question is, what do we do now? Now the Supreme Court has overturned the moratorium, we need to do two things. One, we need to make sure that we push and advocate for New York's moratorium to be reinstated and extended, and to extend that and try to figure out what we can do to protect renters statewide. Secondly, we must also pressure Congress once again to take that vote. The reason that the Supreme Court is overturning this moratorium, and even when they warned the first time that they might, is because members of Congress do not want to cast this vote. And we have to say, listen, we must cast this vote. And here is why. In the last several COVID packages,